The next topic is lack of visual orders. So what do you mean by lack of visual orders? Data visualization is effective because it shifts the balance between perception and cognition to take full advantage of the brain's abilities. Sight and cognition must be a key consideration in the design of all data visualization. So in data visualization, high degrees of color contrast may cause viewers to believe that value disparities are greater than they really are. So misleading color contrast is the biggest mistake, which is a lack of visual order we fail to do. So in this heat map, despite value magnitude with color, high values appear orange and red, while lower values are rendered in blue and green. The difference between values may be minimal, but color contrast creates the impression of heat and heightened activity. So when we go for a color contrast, we must think about the data and how we need to present our design, and we need to control it. Next, too much of data. When visualizations include too much data information, it overwhelms a data, melts into a graphic soup that most viewers can't understand. So, information overloaded applies to data visualization. If too much is presented at once, viewers zone out. It can be more effective to communicate data with multiple visualizations. So in this data, there are multiple things, which is of multiple colors and multiple lines. Here, the second image shows that which is easy to understand, omitting baselines and truncating scales. So in the first thing, we must omit the baselines and truncating scales, so that which will be a better understanding graph. And there should not be too many fonts. Like every font must be unique on their own requirement. You should not give a font as like you want. So too many fonts will distract your concentration of things, and long lines of text, which gives a poor readability. When designers design a thing, what they need to do? When designers prioritize compelling imagery over accuracy, data visualization device. To communicate data with integrity, designers must avoid common data visualization mistakes. Pre-attentive attributes. There are 4 categories of pre-attentive attributes, that is the form, color, position and motion. What do you mean by pre-attentive attributes? So the pre-attentive attributes are the attributes you look when you see an image. So in the above image, when you first you see the image, you first notice the leftward cluster of tall bars on the top 2 graphs. These properties that we are drawn to notice almost immediately are called pre-attentive attributes of visual perception. So as we know, there are 4 categories of pre-attentive attribute. First, form. The category of form generally encompasses the shape and dimensions of how your data is represented, both on their own and in relation to the rest of the data in your visualization. The attributes of form include line, length, line width, orientation, size, shape, curvature, enclosure and blur. So these are the different forms that you have seen so far. For example, a histogram of some dummy data graphing a sample of 750 data points of retirement ages in Matolib. A few issues pop out. The text is a bit blurry, which is distracting. The lack of distinct borders or spacing. So, the width of the bars do not properly line up to the age brackets themselves. So this diagram shows that the sample of retirement age within a population. In the new histogram below, the blur of the text is reduced, so it's no longer drawing our attention in a negative way. Enclosure and spacing are added to the bars to make it easier to distinguish one bar from the next and see which age bracket each bar lines up to. Finally, the width of each bar has been reduced, making it possible to see more specially where each grouping of data falls with respect to the retirement age. Next, pre-attentive attributes. The category of color includes the hue intensity of the colors in your data visualization. Using different hues can draw contrast between different parts of your data. Similarly, if you want one part of your visualization to stand out, the intensity of the color in that section can be increased. So the three distinct groups are easier to pick up on this graph because they have been mapped to the visual representation of hue, red, blue and green. So when compared to the variable X is the first images, it is easy to identify in the second images because of this color. Position. The category of position includes both the two-dimensional position of the data in your visualization and the special group of your data points. The last category of pre-identity visual attributes is motion, which consists of flicker and direction of motion. Think how quickly you notice a flickering traffic light or the flickers of the turn signal of a driver in front of you. Motion can also be brought into two-dimensional ring. If the direction of the motion of an object is distinct from the direction of the objects around it, it will tend to draw our attention. Think of a crowd of people walking in the same direction, but one person walking the opposite way. That person will stand out among the crowd. So, this is the 4 pre-identity attributes which makes you know.